Perhaps unlike most Exanima players, I abandoned using keyboard and mouse from the very beginning and opted for a game controller. When I first opened Exanima, instead of diving directly into the game, I decided to try the practice mode. Despite spending quite some time on expert practice, I always felt a bit uneasy. However, when I attempted to play using a game controller, I was pleasantly surprised to successfully complete it on my first try. The advantages of the game controller go beyond its intuitive movement and 360 degrees directional support. The most crucial aspect is that your movement remains entirely independent and unaffected by cursor position. Additionally, you can adjust the joystick's range to control your character's stride. These four aspects make the game controller my preferred method of operation. Now let's discuss the benefits of joystick movement. Firstly, you can effortlessly evade almost all attacks without needing to judge or adjust your character's direction, as long as you have enough space to move. If you don't want to get hurt, you won't. While I believe keyboard and mouse can achieve similar results, the game controller simplifies this process. Secondly, precise control over your character's position allows you to fully grasp the weapon's striking range. This means that the order of attack and movement won't affect your hit rate. Here's a straightforward demonstration. When using a keyboard and mouse, attempting to expand the attack range by moving the cursor results in subsequent movements being influenced by cursor position, making it complex to extend attacks in the direction of movement. However, with a controller, it only affects the extension distance. You'll notice that when using a controller, I can focus solely on attacking while maintaining a straight path and repeatedly swinging the weapon from left to right. My left hand simply pushes the joystick forward. Try achieving something similar with a keyboard and mouse, and you'll realize how cumbersome the movement inputs become. Furthermore, due to the independent movement method, I don't lose success rate during grappling because I can position accurately. Indeed, the game controller makes combat simpler, but it also has some downsides. When you overly rely on movement, you might forget the essence of this game. Unlike typical games where movement is merely coordinate-based with running animations, Exanima's character movement is entirely determined by their footsteps. Ignoring this fact can lead to unnecessary movements, reducing spatial efficiency and causing problems in complex combat scenarios. You can delve deeper into the concept of footsteps once you become more familiar with the game. Until then, enjoy the freedom that joystick movement provides. Now let's explore the disadvantages of game controllers compared to keyboard and mouse. Undoubtedly, it all revolves around the mouse. If you exclusively use a game controller throughout the game, replacing all mouse operations with the right joystick, you'll undoubtedly experience sluggishness. Exanima offers numerous interactive items and objects, and you'll waste time merely positioning the cursor and interacting with objects. I must admit that I often switch to the mouse for non-combat interactions. However, if you're playing on a Steam Deck, this disadvantage becomes negligible. Another drawback of the game controller is precision in attacks. If you've seen discussions about controlling attack positions, you'll appreciate the game's intricate design. With a mouse, you can easily target any location on an enemy's torso, especially during thrust attacks. However, achieving precise hits with a game controller is challenging. Most of the time, you can only control the direction of your thrust. Fortunately, with enough practice, you can still achieve hit rates similar to a mouse, primarily because attack timing influences hit rate more than positional accuracy. As for swing attacks, I find the performance of game controllers and keyboard mouse to be quite similar, although the mouse has a slight advantage in controlling attack height. How much these differences impact combat depends on each person's fighting style. If you're a one-handed weapon enthusiast who heavily relies on thrust attacks, you might feel the difference. Not only is it related to accuracy, but thrust attacks with one-handed weapons are significantly affected by the character's movement state, where the independent movement of the game controller provides little assistance. However, if you're like me and prefer polearms, once you adapt to the game controller's mode of operation, you might find it challenging to switch back to keyboard and mouse, especially after discovering how straightforward grappling can be. If you're interested in game controllers, I've provided my own configuration as a reference, hoping it brings some assistance. In conclusion, whether you're a novice or a seasoned player, I recommend giving game controller operation a try. I once questioned why the default game operation didn't support screen relative movement until someone pointed out that it would severely restrict movement. I even attempted to map the game controller's directional control to the keyboard's WASD keys, aiming to enjoy both intuitive movement and precise attacks. However, after experiencing it firsthand, I realized that the advantages of 360 degrees movement far exceeded my expectations. We know that when using the default movement, you can change the cursor position to move the character in any desired direction. While this is an excellent design, it requires determining where WASD will lead you based on the character's facing direction or cursor position. I must say it's counterintuitive and poses a challenge to human performance. In combat, even one misjudgment can increase the risk of getting hurt, despite the game providing excellent automatic defense mechanisms. Additionally, adapting to the default keyboard and mouse movement requires significant gaming experience and operational proficiency. On the positive side, it provides more depth and playability to the game's combat system, giving it a unique flavor and making combat itself more challenging. However, on the flip side, non-intuitive movement doesn't contribute to the immersion that the game emphasizes. Instead, it might discourage players who initially struggle with the learning curve. 7 years ago, the main developer of the game, Matic, said this sentence. Whether it was a joke or not, I appreciate that he did not stick to his initial viewpoint and provided excellent controller support for later versions of the game, allowing me not to miss out on this hidden gem.
Emotional damage!
Thank you for watching. Feel free to leave your comments and questions below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe.